Hey YouTube, thank you for joining me for another YouTube video. This time I'm talking about the Trakracer TR80 and aluminium profile rigs in general. As many of you know, I was racing on a wooden homebrew rig for a lot of years. Actually, I've used homebrew wooden rigs for the past 15 or so years. I've now moved on to aluminium profile, and I'm going to tell you first of all what I think about the Trakracer TR80 in terms of as a piece of kit, value and everything else, so that you can make an informed buying decision, and then talk about aluminium profile rigs in general, because I know a lot of you have your views and I'd be interested to know about those in the comments below. So if you haven't already, feel free to leave comments on all of the videos that I'm producing, as well as that you can hit that subscribe button, just like so. That subscribe button helps me out as a creator a butt ton. I mean, I cannot describe just how much. As well as that, it helps to share it out to your friends and family as well as all the other sim racers out there. They all need to see these videos. As well as that, if you're into a bit more live content, something I'm more familiar with is the live side of things, where I go racing for a couple of hours every Saturday night. You can join the Twitch on the link in the description. It's up on screen right now. Come have a blast with us. Chat is always popping off and it's really good to see most of you there. But anyway, shall we get into it? The Trakracer TR80. What's it all about? Okay, so you're in the market for a brand new sim rig because there's a whole heap of direct drive wheels on the market right now, and you think you need aluminium profile in order to be able to use one. Is that the truth? Well, let me stop you there. Wood is capable, absolutely. Steel absolutely is capable. Aluminium profiles and sections are capable just as well. It is not about the material that you're using, it's about how it's put together and how it's engineered. And that's one of the things about this Trakracer TR80 that I was very impressed with. There's a lot of thought that's gone into this that makes it work. Now, I know that a lot of you have thought, well, there's better ones, there's bigger ones. Well, this is the TR80 Mark V, not a high-end rig at all. And you've got to ask the question, well, does it flex? Yeah, of course it does. There isn't anything you build out there that won't flex, and there's a reason why. Because if it doesn't flex, it doesn't remove all the nasty, unwanted things we don't want coming through the wheel and our bodies. I'm talking about things like when you kick the pedals and they release back to their stop, when you hit something, when you're shifting, all those things you wouldn't normally feel in a car. They're absorbed by the material of the car and you wouldn't feel them. So your rig has to go some way into helping with that, and this does a fantastic job at that. You don't notice the flex when you're racing, however. The forces that you put through your wheel, you're never going to shake the rig enough to notice that your monitors are out of sync with you, let alone losing feeling. And you'll see the monitors before you lose the feeling, I guarantee that. So with the monitors mounted to this rig, and a keyboard and a mouse, and all of the other things I've got mounted on here, like this camera that I'm speaking to you on, I've got an audio mixer, I've got my own button box with a bracket, I've got a shifter, I've got a handbrake, I've got the wheel itself, and of course there's my lights and microphone. Are there any problems with any of this? Does it fail in any way? Are there any limitations? Honestly, no. If you can find a place to put something and you have a bracket and a way to mount said device to the rig, this is absolutely fantastic. The TR80 has impressed me quite a lot with that, because I have made a lot of my own brackets, made a lot of my own gear. This handbrake's home built, the button box is home built, the audio mixer's sort of cable tied on because that's not meant to be mounted to anything, that's supposed to be a desktop. And yet here we are with a TR80, a professional solution where I've not needed to go out and refabricate things, because they've thought things out well enough that I can use the kit that I made for other solutions and use them on this. And I haven't had to go buy hardware either. The TR80 Mark V came with a lot of extra kit that you didn't need to use. It wasn't part of the instructions, So it's just extra gratis kit. And I've used a lot of that to mount things. So yeah, that is an absolute bonus to Trakracer. Well done there, guys. I like that a lot. So what about value? Well, to be honest, they're not cheap. These rigs are hundreds of pounds, but you're not paying for just the materials. If you were to pay for just the materials, I checked, an alien profile rig that I designed was a lot more expensive, despite using thinner profile, but in a different layout, if that makes any sense. Yeah, the idea is that you want to stop flex back and forth, and that does this perfectly. So the way it's engineered cuts down on material cost, helping you save a lot of money. Could you go out and buy these parts a lot cheaper? Probably, but you would then need all of the hardware, you would have all of the headache, you would have none of the instruction, you'd have none of the help. And that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for the engineering, you're paying for the help, you're paying for the support, you're paying for everything to be there and ready to go when it arrives at your door. And for that, it's worth it. Absolutely worth it. And I've done a lot of builds, I've done a lot of DIY things over the years. Some of them I engineered, some of them I just threw together. And what you pay for with this Trakracer kit, and I'm guessing it's the same for many of the other profile manufacturers as well, you're paying for all of the hard work to have already been done. However, there are caveats. This was not a simple build. This took 3 different mornings. I think I got about 2 hours each morning, so 6 hours. But building things is what I do for a living. I build commercial vehicles that carry passengers. I do that as a living, and that's not easy because nothing ever fits, nothing's ever drawn up, you don't know what you're doing half the time, you can make it up as you go along. And that's how most of building this felt. There were instructions there, but it felt like they may have been drawn up for different designs, different ideas. Like the wheel, there is no instruction on which holes you mount the Thrustmaster T300 into at all, and there's no instruction in where you mount the other wheels or any other brands. It's just you get the plate mounts onto the rig, and you're away. And that's it. And that seems a little weird to me. You would want to know how it integrates with all the other hardware that's out there on the market. Same with the shifter platform. I had to scratch my head multiple times on how I was going to mount the Logitech shifter. Horrible device, but it does the job, and I've mounted it, and it works. But I did struggle to get it mounted and into a position that I actually find comfortable to use. There was no instruction at all on best practice, on how to fit things, on how this integrates with others. Keep that in mind, especially if you've got an open sim wheel or something like Simplicity, where nothing is going to be straightforward. You might find you have a harder time than most with this sort of thing. But that said, judging the rig by itself, it's a fantastic piece of kit and at some fantastic value. So if you haven't already pulled the plug this Black Friday, it might be worth a look. So moving on, aluminium rigs in general. Are they worth it? What is it they're actually supposed to do? And why? Why did we start doing this? Well, cast your mind way back before SingleCube was in existence, way back before the Podium direct drive wheels, when on the market, if you wanted direct drive, you had to either go homebrew, you had to either be an engineer with connections that could get you all of the parts, or you had to buy something like a Frex or a Leo Bodmer. Both extremely good units, throwing out more torque than you'd see from any car they've built since the 70s. For that sort of thing, you needed something stout, something that wasn't going to move whatsoever, because they would easily bend a lot of the profile that's on this rig. Nowadays, you don't really find that. You find that the understanding of how to deliver force feedback more accurately has come to faster direct drive motors rather than just ones that could deliver more force. Because more force is a good thing up to a point, up to around about 10 Newton meters. That's sort of the sweet spot for where you want that force to be, but speed is more important. The length of time between when the software works out what it's going to send to your hands and your hands getting that That is the most important thing. Flex is one of those things where with really big, bulky, heavy, very powerful motors, flex took a lot of that away from you as a driver. With the faster, smaller, lighter, more agile wheels, you don't get as much as that, so you don't need to build anything that's as stout to survive that kind of extreme environment anymore. So you don't really need aluminium profile anymore. You can use anything. You can use wood, you can use steel, you can use aluminium, you can use anything you really want, cardboard if you really desire. I've even seen people cut quarter sections of cars and start using those now, because a car's strength usually comes from the entire structure and you just don't need that strength anymore. But that said, there is still a place for aluminium profile, and that is in the simplicity and the customization of these devices. Now, like I said, I've mounted a lot to this rig, a lot of things that this rig wasn't really sold as being able to mount. Things like my button box, my handbrake, yeah, that isn't on one of their add-on extras, which caters for shifters and handbrakes. I've just stuck that on with the brackets I already had. This audio mixer, they don't sell any parts to mount an audio mixer, yet I've managed to do it, and that's because aluminium profile has slots along the full length of every structural piece. Therefore, you can mount things anywhere, providing you've got a screw and a T-nut ready to go to mount your device. And I think that is far and above the most important thing about modern sim rigs, is the ability to change. Because look at SimuCube, look at Moser, look at Fanatec. They're driving this industry forward through leaps and bounds, and now you've got Cube Controls doing the same thing. You've now got GSI entering the market to disrupt it. You've got a lot going on, and with all this new kit comes a lot of new problems in where you put that new kit on old platforms that weren't designed for something that wasn't around at the time. Aluminium profile has the ability to be adapted to whatever you need it to adapt to because of the way it's manufactured. If you buy a wooden rig, you've then got to start drilling holes, making new sections, re-engineering sections in order to do what you want with it, which is why I changed from wood to profile, because that was something that I was having to do regular. The same goes for steel. If you've got a welded steel cockpit or something that bolts together, again, you're then going to have to start engineering solutions to mount things that wasn't intended to have mounted to it. With profile, it's just basically, it's a T-nut, a bolt, you slide it in, you bolt it up, you're good to go. And for that, I think there's no better material on the market today to build a rig out of if you're future conscious. But the age-old argument always comes down to, well, does it flex? Is the extra weight gonna hamper anything in your room? And does it make much noise? And these are things I've heard a few times. Now, noise, yes. It's not going to change anything. In reality, all of the noise that your rig makes comes down to the wheel itself, the shifters that are on the wheel, because believe me, the shifters are always the loudest part of it. H-pattern shifters as well, and anything else where it makes a hard contact, for example the pedals. They're always going to be the noisiest objects of any rig, not the rig itself. If you're after quiet, you need to address those areas, not the platform you're on. In terms of flex, as discussed earlier, it needs to flex. It absolutely needs to flex, otherwise you're going to feel things you wouldn't naturally feel, and it's going to feel awful. As well as that, the flex helps to keep it in one piece. I don't know how many of you people watching this video have done any materials engineering as part of high school or university or college, whatever it is. If something doesn't flex, then it's too brittle. If it's brittle, it cracks, and if it cracks, it shatters. You want the flex there to make things strong enough to survive over long periods of time. And that, with these 5 and 10mm sections of steel that bolt onto this aluminium profile, I think Trakracer have really designed their product to last as long as you imagine. Aluminium does have the problem where it work hardens though, so if it does bend, it stays there. and if you do bend it back, it either bends somewhere else or it cracks. That's a problem all aluminium faces. There's no way to stop that unless you're heating it up to a homologous point of about 40% its melting temperature. That's a material sciences problem. That's nothing to do with any rig manufacturer or engineer. And at the end of the day, if you've got something that's bent a piece of aluminium profile at 40 by 40 to that extent, maybe you shouldn't be using aluminium anyway. I mean, that's going to take some serious force, so it's not worth considering. Absolutely not. So with that in mind, I think that's another video just outlining what this is, how it works, and how it is amazing on other levels when you're considering how future forward these profile rigs are. Now, again, I'm just going to say thank you so much to everybody, because over the past, what's it been now, 2 months since I started doing this YouTube channel and regularly putting out videos of things that I've been really interested in. Yeah, I'm stoked. We're over 130 subscribers. I'm almost 140, I believe. It's nuts. It's nuts. When you see people around that have been finding that it takes years to grow that much, it really shows me that you guys are finding some value in these videos. And for that, I cannot be more humbled. But I would like to say that if you are finding value in these, please consider subscribing, consider leaving a comment, hitting that like button, and sharing them with a friend. And don't forget, every Saturday we're live between 7 and 9 in the evening, at UK time of course. So just come join us in the chat and have a good old blast. But for now, I'm going to sign out. Thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy your week.